So I had to bury my second kid next to my mom. And after that happened, I had this pivotal moment in my life where I either had to decide I was all in and I was going to hold on and believe that there was something more, or I was just going to quit and say enough's enough.
Awesome. Welcome back to Case Studies. I'm with longtime friend Nate Randle. That randomly we've been a part of each other's journeys for a long time. And it's kind of come and gone, but, always been the biggest fan of Nate. Anybody who knows Nate knows truly just genuine, big-hearted human, incredible leader. It's been fun to watch you in this role as CEO of Gabb and go from like a really great kind of senior executive to like running the show. And, we're investors in Gabb and have been really happy with how that company's grown and specifically around the culture that you've created there. And so want to dive into, the journey and the story and kind of how you got here, brother.
Well, thanks, Casey. That sincerely means a lot. Feelings mutual. Watching you, I mean, we've known each other 11 or 12 now.
Yeah, when did it, was it when you came to Vivint or was it before that? Because you were at the Jazz before Vivint or after Vivint?
After.
Okay.
So I was at Nike.
Yep.
And it was Jeff Lyman that recruited me to Vivint, and that's when I met you.
Because you and Jeff were at Nike for a while, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was on the golf business, Tiger Woods business, and then football and baseball, and he was on LeBron, and then the Fuel Band.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that.
Yep, 100%.
And then he left first and went to Vivint, and then he reached out, and I followed him.
Yeah, so maybe let's go back to the beginning because I think that there's aspects of your story that I've actually never heard you tell, and then there's some that are like really public that are crazy endearing for me that I just love. But maybe go back to like your upbringing because I think, I hear you talk about single moms and, that was a kind of key piece of your journey and growing up with an amazing mom. So maybe go back to kind of where it all began for you. Where was home growing up and what was family like growing up?
Yeah, I was born in Payson, and my biological dad left when I was 4 or 5, almost 5. His own choices. He was in a band and had a lot going on in his life and was not showing up for my mom or us. And so he moved on.
You remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very vividly.
Well, like what's like I'm fascinated because I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and you always wonder, what are they actually getting?
Yeah.
And what are they not getting? Like, what memories do you have of like your dad?
Yeah, I thought about that. Like, how do I have such vivid memories? I think it's because when you're a kid and you're going through a massive trial, your parents are splitting. I remember trying to grasp on to who am I going to be with? And when I was getting passed back and forth, trying to hold on to those moments because I wanted to be with him and I wanted to be with her. And there's just all these dynamics. And so I think as a kid, you're trying to lock it all in so that you don't lose it because you feel like you're losing something.
Yeah.
And so I remember after they divorced, I'd go stay at his house. I remember the specific toys he had for me that I would play. I remember him taking me to get treats at the grocery store. So I have specific memories, but there are a lot of things that happened that not enough time here to tell. But he eventually moved on and was not a part of my life anymore. And I haven't seen him since I was 6 or 7.
That long?
Yeah.
Just kind of said, I'm done being a dad.
Yeah. He, again, had options and made his own choices and left. And so my mom was single, had to do it all on her own. By that point, she had me and my little sister, who's 2 years younger. And she was single for a good stretch before she met my second dad. And they got married. and she couldn't have been happier. He was the perfect person for her.
You were how old at this point?
I'm so bad with timing, but I was 7 or 8 by this point.
So still really young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they dated for a little while, got married, had my little brother. So I have a little sister, little brother. And they were building, he was an attorney in Salt Lake, was 10 years older than her, had this established career. And it put her in a completely different place in life because she went from being single and literally having almost nothing and feeling completely left behind to finding somebody that absolutely valued her and treated her like gold and was so good to us as kids. And they ended up getting married. And then they were building a home together up in Kaysville, and it was her dream house. I mean, she'd gone from nothing to something, and everything was so good. I'd never seen my mom happier. And my sister and I left to school one day, March 13th. It was yesterday was 40 years she's been gone. 40 years. So 40 years ago yesterday, I left to school and came home, and she wasn't there. My uncle was there. And he'd never been at my house like that before after school. And I was asking, what's going on? Where's my mom? And he said, your dad's going to be home in a minute to tell you. And my dad's second dad, stepdad, walked in and said, I don't know how to tell you kids this, but your mom was in a car accident today and she's gone. So I was 9. My sister was 7 and my little brother was 2. So both of my biological parents were gone by the time I was 9. And I was raised by, I knew my stepdad, my second dad by then, but not at the level I knew my mom and that I knew my biological dad.
But your stepdad just raised you.
Yeah.
What a boss.
Oh, he is. I can't even tell you what he means to me.
Yeah, he's a boss. Like I'm hearing that and I'm just like, those are your kids, but they're not your kids. You know what I mean? Like you're falling in love with their mom.
Yeah.
And the package is the package, but you're falling in love with their mom.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the mom's gone. And
I'm so bad with it. It all runs together, but he was with her, dated plus married 3 years maybe. And then everybody after, friends, neighbors, Steve, let's set you up. Let's get you in another relationship. Don't you want to get married again? And he said it over and over to people. I waited 35 years to meet Roseanne.
He was just in love with her.
And I'll wait as long as I need to be with her again. So he never remarried. He raised the 3 of us on his own. And I had this defining moment with him when I was 12 or 13. I was giving him a run for his money. And I didn't process it at the time, but I think I was gut checking him a little bit. Like, are you really going to be with me?
Do you love me?
Yeah. Do you love me? Or am I just some kid you're stuck with? And he sat me down, and in a more articulate way, he said, do you want to be a standout or a statistic? Because if you want to be a statistic, a kid who loses both of his parents by the time he's 10 probably doesn't have a great shot. Or you can listen to me, you can follow my rules, you can do good in school, you can learn to work, and you'll be a standout. And I'd far rather help you be a standout than a statistic. And he's an attorney, and he said it so much better than that. But I remember thinking, okay, maybe he does care. And I still gave him a run during high school a little bit, but talk about somebody that didn't have to. My mom's parents wanted to take us. They said to him, if we take the kids and raise them, and you can come see them whenever you want, but you won't have the pressure of the day-to-day raising of the kid. You can run your law firm. You just won't have to deal with it. And he said respectfully, absolutely not. These are my kids, and I'm going to raise them in memory of Roseanne, my mom. And I'm going to do exactly what I told her we were going to do. I'm just going to do it myself. And other people helped. My grandparents were such big helps there all the time, and neighbors and my friends' parents helped, but he raised us.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard anything like that. Ever.
Yeah.
It's got to shape you in so many ways. Like some of them like really traumatic and some of them really good. Like you had to grow up fast and you had to become independent.
Yeah.
And I think about the difference between me raising my kids and my wife raising the kids.
Yeah.
They'd probably have a lot more latitude with me raising them than my wife raising them.
Yeah.
So there's part of it that's like just the independence. I assume that you just had to grow up and had to be independent and had to become kind of your own man.
Yeah, we had different nannies, but I was washing my clothes at 10, ironing my clothes, helping with my brother and sister. It was a crazy stretch.
Yeah. So finished up high school where?
Went to Davis, up in Kaysville.
So finished up in Kaysville.
Yeah.
And then where'd you go from there? Where'd you go from there to college to kind of the next phase of the journey?
Yeah, I went to the U. Didn't really think about going anywhere else. Did a business finance degree. Thought I wanted to go to law school and follow my dad. So I took the LSAT, started to apply to schools. And then I was driving home from the job I had at the time one night. And I had this overwhelming feeling, I don't want to go to law school. Like being an attorney isn't me. And so I walked into our little 1-bedroom apartment with my wife. We'd been married a year, maybe 18 months. I said, look, I know when we were dating and engaged and even now married, we've been telling everybody we're going to law school, but I don't want to go to law school. I don't think I'll like it. And so supportive, she said, okay, don't do it. But if you're not going to go to law school, you better figure out what you're going to do.
This is your wife?
Yeah. She's like, well, let's go. Let's go. So we listed off 7 or 8 companies that I'd want to work with, and every one of them was a sports company. I listed off the golf companies, a few NBA teams, the NFL. And fast forwarding, oh, by the way, I called my dad, who I thought I would disappoint. I said, hey, Dad, I just talked to Allie. I told her I don't want to go to law school. I don't want to let you down. I thought my dream was to go to law school and then come work at your law firm. He started laughing. He said, I'm so happy for you. You finally found you. I don't think you should be an attorney either. It's not you. I've told you it's not you, but you've been trying to make it into you. Go be you. So if you want to go work in sports, go work in sports. I was like, oh my goodness, thank you. And I realized that so much of what I was doing was probably trying to pay him back by following his path because he had taken care of me. And when he
gave you permission,
gave me the go, like, no, go be, I raised you to be you, not me.
Yeah.
So we packed up our Honda Civic and moved to California, and I worked for Callaway Golf, and it was one of the funnest stretches of my career. And that's how I started.
And Callaway like, were you a big golfer before, or did you just like jump in?
So I'd started playing, and I was working for a company in Ogden called MarketStar.
Yep.
And MarketStar outsources to other companies. And so I was working on the Hewlett-Packard account on the small to medium business. I was selling printers and scanners. And I found that if I dressed up in a shirt and tie and went into a boardroom and tried to sell printers and scanners to a CEO at a small to medium business or to the superintendent of the school, I wasn't selling anything. I was selling like a printer here and a print. It wasn't even enough commission to cover my rent. And so I flipped the switch and started inviting the CFO from this business and the superintendent from that school to play 9 holes of golf. And I was paying for it. And I wouldn't talk about selling printers or scanners during the round. And then in the parking lot, I would say to the superintendent, hey, you're building that new elementary school and every one of those rooms needs a printer and a scanner, right? Like, send me the invoice. I was like, I used to sit in a boardroom for 90 minutes and pitch printers and scanners, and I couldn't get them to buy 5 from me. And now I take them golfing for a couple of hours, and in the parking lot, I'm getting invoices that are triple what I had before.
Wow.
So I eventually went to my boss and said, hey, I hope I don't get in trouble or get fired, but this is what I'm doing. He's like, I was wondering what you're doing. Your sales have doubled and tripled. I said, I'm taking people golfing. He said, well, I would have given you a budget to do that. And I said, well, I didn't want to get in trouble, so I was just putting it on my card, but the commission I was making was worth taking people golfing for 9 holes because it was better than sitting in a boardroom and not making enough money. So I started playing and my game started getting decent. And that's why I listed golf companies. And then I went to Callaway. I landed a job at Callaway. And I started playing around people that were incredibly good, college golfers. And my game never got that good. But yeah,
So you got better.
Yeah, you get better when you're
What'd
playing
you get
with better
down to?
players. Oh, I never below a 10. I mean, I'm not.
Have we not played golf?
We haven't?
I'm like, the last 5 or 6 years, it's turned into my favorite thing in the world.
I'm in. Tell me when.
That's all we do. That's our whole business.
Tell me when.
Like, I'm listening to your story and I'm like,
yeah,
our business at Sandlot has come from just take amazing people golfing. You go spend a day with them. And, if I've learned anything, it's that, like, business is relationships. Like, people have 1,000 options. They could do business with 1,000 different people. And they want to do business with people that they trust and people that they like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a good product or you're going to be out of business.
Yep.
But assuming you have a good product, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to buy your product. They're going to buy your product because they like you and they trust you. And, we want to help people that we like and we trust. And so, like, so much of our business has been built just developing relationships in an authentic way. And golf for us is that, it's
when you get out, it just speeds up the relationship.
It's just, and everybody's having a good time. You're little kids, you're playing a game, like when in life do you get to just play a game?
Yeah.
And to be able to do it and call it work is like cheating. You know what I mean? And so we got to go play.
I would love to. I don't know how we haven't. I played with Mr. Mendez.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, got on with Callaway. Where was the switch to Nike?
So I was at Callaway for 5.
And what did you learn at Callaway?
Oh my goodness.
If you were to break down, like, these are the foundational principles that have helped me through the rest of my career. What did you take from that company?
The first thing I learned, non-golf related, is how to lead the right way. Dan Chumbler was my boss there. And he's still a dear friend of mine. I haven't been at Callaway for 18 to 20 years, maybe. And he was just the best leader. I had no understanding of the golf business. He welcomed me in. He showed me the ropes. He trusted me, and then he let me go. I could go to when I needed to. Just the best boss I've ever been around. He was so good for me to start my career. I can't thank him enough. So I learned how to lead at Callaway, what to do and what not to do. And then I learned how to flat out hustle. We got a new CEO when I was there. I'd been there 6 to 8 months. And this new CEO came in and he wanted to add to the portfolio. His position was, look, Callaway's strong, but if the market ever dips one way or the other, we need to have other brands on the portfolio that we can play off of. So the weight of the business is not just on Callaway. So we bought Ben Hogan, a premier brand. He bought Top Flight, more of an entry level, less expensive brand. And he asked me to manage a couple of those. And I learned more in a couple of years of managing those brands
than you ever could have.
It was
MBA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We made a rap video. I mean, we did crazy stuff to drive awareness for the brand, but it worked. And the golf industry is small. Everybody knows everybody. And if you do anything of interest or that does well, you just get in this circle of, if an opportunity happens, you get approached. And some of the people from Callaway had left to Nike, and I knew some of the Nike senior leadership team, and the timing was right. And I ended up going up there for a 5-year run. And I was on the golf business at Nike and the Tiger Woods brand. And that was
that when Tiger was just like what stage was that with Tiger? Was that Tiger driving off of a cliff? Was that Tiger?
That was Tiger unstoppable. And then his life fell apart overnight when everything came out.
Yep.
Hit the fire hydrant in his neighborhood. Wife put I think it was a 2-iron through his back window. All the scandals came out for 3 months. That's all anyone talked about. It was on every tabloid. And we had to figure out how to manage Nike Golf through that.
Which is another incredibly amazing experience.
Phil Knight, in his relationship with the president of Nike Golf, Cindy Davis, there was a lot of buzz on the Nike campus that Nike Golf wouldn't survive without Tiger. And that was a fair statement because Nike Golf was Tiger more than Tiger was Nike Golf. And the brand had been built on Tiger's wins. I mean, if you remember at the Masters when he hit that chip shot and right before the Nike golf ball rolled in, it paused and the swoosh was perfectly sitting there and then it dropped in. The brand could not have been more on fire, but it was on fire because of Tiger. And then when Tiger goes away overnight, what are you supposed to do? So a lot of the executives on campus were saying, I just don't see how Nike Golf survives. And in a 3-year stretch, we almost doubled the business. And we did it because Phil and his genius and Cindy with how brilliant she was, the strategy was, well, let's not create our own playbook. Let's look at how other Nike athletes have been managed through crisis. And who do you go to? Kobe. A handful of years earlier had gone through the Colorado situation. And we don't need to rehash all that. But he had accusations stacked against him. And I'm not here to debate one way or the other. But what Nike basketball did was they sent him to Asia. They took him out of the US market completely for 2 years, put him in Asia, built his brand over there. And then when things had settled a bit, they brought Kobe back. And then we know what he is today.
Yeah.
He's an icon with murals painted everywhere and ended up finishing a brilliant career. And so we just followed that playbook with Tiger and it worked.
You went to Asia.
Yeah. Took him to Asia. I mean, not living there, but if we did an event with Tiger, it was in Asia. It's just a different culture. There would be 8 to 10 people deep at these golf events that we would do there. And we built his brand in China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan. And then after it settled and Tiger started to come back, we did a couple of things. We went and brought on additional athletes so that it wouldn't all be Tiger again. And then we brought him back into the market with those athletes. So it wouldn't be just, here's Tiger again, accept him or reject him. So we signed Rory McIlroy.
Yep.
And I got to be a part of that whole experience, which is one of the coolest things in my career. And then we did a spot with Tiger and Rory where they were trading shots like Jordan and Bird did in the McDonald's commercial.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it allowed Tiger to come back in this kind of big brother way. And he started winning again. And
golf was just better when Tiger was winning.
Golf was good again. Yeah.
He was so electric.
Yeah. Sad now. Achilles.
Yeah, he just can't get it all the way back. It's so tragic because he's still a young guy.
Yeah. He's a month older than I am.
Yeah, like when you take like the whole world of golf, like a lot of guys his age would be in their prime right now or continuing to win. Like it's it's a sport that you can play longer.
Yeah.
And just his health has taken him out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and part of it's life decisions too, right? I mean, the choices he made put him on a really tough path. And then he goes through some accidents and trials that just make it really tough to overcome.
Some really tough physical. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? I want to learn more about you.
Oh, sure.
You and Chelsea had a family. You had a successful career going. And then you decided to add to your family.
Yep.
I have so much respect. It's easy to talk about it. It's so much harder to do it. And I haven't added to my family beyond my biological kids. And I think what interests me more in life now than anything else, than careers and titles and money, is who you are and what you do as a dad. That's what I'm most interested in life right now.
That's like number one.
Yeah, just because I have 4 kids that I care about, and they're all in different stages, and my investment in their lives is, I hope, will be my greatest legacy. I hope that's what matters most. I hope that's what they want to talk about. So with you, how did you make that decision?
It wasn't that tough. Like we always anticipated having a bigger family. And it just didn't happen. We had 2 years apart. Then there was a gap, 5 years. And then there was another gap, 4 or 5 years. And so we, started through the different fertility options, did IUI, IVF, and that was harder on Chelsea than, it was just hard. It was hard on Chelsea and ended up being hard on our family, to the point where we kind of said, hey, we got to be done with the hormones and that process. It's just like we're miserable right now. And so we got kind of option A, option B. Option A is we get grateful that we got 3 awesome kids and roll. And I was actually completely at peace with that option. We had an amazing family, loved our girls. They're at such a fun point in life. Or option B would be you go adopt. And I was actually really great on that. We had, a bunch of friends who had adopted and had good experiences with it. My little sister had just adopted about a year earlier. And my wife had this really unique experience where my sister called her kind of last second and said, hey, the birth mom is in Utah and she's having the baby today. Can you come pick me up at the airport? So she took her to the airport.
Oh, wow.
Goes to the hospital. The birth mom was kind of a pretty active drug user. And so she had been sober for, a day, and you could tell that was really hard on her.
Yeah. And
so kind of worked through the process of finalizing the adoption, and then the birth mom just kind of disappeared. And my sister, so it was kind of this really fast, intense, pretty special experience. She got this little baby that has a family that wants it. And then my sister gets deathly sick, like flu, where she actually can't be with this new adopted baby.
Oh, man.
So she calls Chelsea and she's like, can you guys take
infant, brand new baby,
brand new baby. Can you guys take the baby? It needs to stay in Utah. It can't fly to Montana. And I'm dying. I'm so sick. So we watched the baby for a week. And it was this spiritual experience for Chelsea where she goes through this process of realizing I can 100% love this child like I could love any of my other children.
Yeah.
So it's this, you always have this question of hey, could I love someone else's kid as much as my biological kid? And just my nature with working in door to door, I kind of knew the answer was yes. I've just worked with, 100,000 people over 15 years. And you just know, when you serve people and you love them, whether it's a sports teammate or somebody on your, people are people, you know what I mean? And you kind of get out what you put in. And so I didn't have any doubt if we adopted, they'd just fit right in. But I think Chelsea was more cautious. And that was an experience where it just she realized. So started that process, adopted CJ a couple years later. Once we got CJ, we knew we were going to adopt 2 children just so that he could have a buddy.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew it was going to be a boy. So we adopted CJ and Tex, and it's just been beautiful. People ask hey, is it hard? And I'm yeah, it's hard, but being a parent's hard. It's just choose your heart. Every kid that you have is going to have their own dynamics and their own stuff that they're dealing with. And, we have that, and it's a little more 3-dimensional because you got birth moms that are kind of little kids too, they wouldn't be giving up the baby if they were completely independent and self-sustaining. They're giving up the baby because they're hurting or they're dependent or they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And they just can't do it, and so anyway.
So the birth moms have come back into the scene?
We've just always kind of chose to have them apart. Like we never wanted our kids to like wake up and have a reveal someday.
Yeah.
And, both of our kids are Black. And so there's never going to be any question with our kids like that they're adopted. You know what I mean? And 2025 being adopted is just different. You have you've got genetic testing, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram. It's just like the idea of like a closed adoption.
Yeah. Impossible.
They just don't exist anymore. And so like for us, we kind of erred on the side of too open and just, from the very day that they've been born, we'd put together little books of their birth mom and talk about their birth moms and try to have that be a healthy part of the journey.
Yeah.
That just their birth moms loved them and loved them enough that they'd put them in a home that, could go raise them. And anyway, it's a long answer to a short question, but it was, faith is something that's super important to us, and we feel 100% guided. We feel like this was part of the plan, always, and even the hardships, the infertility, and this kind of boils down to just my philosophical view in life, which is life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. And that sometimes you need the hard, sometimes you need the challenges, and there's lessons to be learned. And even kind of bringing it back to your story, you just wonder why that was your story. Why your dad had to leave when you were 5, and why your mom had to leave when you were 8 or 9, and who you became in that process and what that means to your contribution to the world. And, we can go into that next, but I see that you've captured a meaning that's not God hates me or I'm a victim. You've captured some deeper, more beautiful meaning about there's other people that are hurting and there's other moms that need help. And you've kind of put that central to your life's work, and it's really beautiful. And it's, become, that empathy that I think only you can have from your life experience has became a superpower.
Yeah.
And I see it just getting started. Like it's one of the things I love the most about you is just how you love people in general, but specifically like moms that are in that same spot that your mom was in.
Well, that's kind of you. Before we go to that, I think any dad that's willing to bring kids in and just love them, like the way I've seen you love your kids, so much respect. I just, the
only reason that I can see that being like super interesting to you is like that was your dad.
My dad decided to quit on me. There's just no other. He quit.
But your stepdad was the opposite.
And
your
then my
stepdad was the one that like stepped up and just said, I'm going to love you guys like my own.
Yeah. My dad, I don't even call my step. He's my real dad.
Yeah.
But he took into, he and my mom had my little brother, but me and my sister were not his.
Yeah.
And he just took us in.
Yeah.
And then when she passed, he still took us in. And so I just when a dad and moms, but as a dad, I can understand the perspective of when you're willing to take somebody else's kid in and love them like your own to the point where it becomes so blended they are your own.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most beautiful gifts that you can, and I know that we both believe in a Heavenly Father. It's one of the greatest gifts I think you can give heaven, because heaven wants kids to be in the best place possible.
But it's one of the greatest gifts heaven can give you.
Yes, exactly.
I'll bet you if you go to your stepdad, he would say, raising you guys, or your real dad, would say raising you guys was one of the highlights of my life and still is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I see that even with these kids being 3 and 5, like, I come home and boys are just different. Like, I had these girls and they're just sweet and, loving on me, and these, come home and it's
tornadoes.
You want to fight?
Yeah.
They got his boxing glove on, punches me in the stomach as hard as he can, and crying, running to mom when I'm chasing him, and they're just like so fun. They're just Like they're a gift to me. I'm just like, how do I get to be these kids' dad? Like, how did I get so lucky to be able to be these, like, how are these kids in my life? And the only reason is because I live in 2024 and technology is what it is and resources are what they are. Like in any other time, I wouldn't have had these kids. They wouldn't have been able to find me, and so, you get sentimental just saying like, man, God really is good and gives you exactly what you need. And it turns into something that's synergistic and beautiful. And I think you would probably look back at your upbringing and say it was beautiful. Like,
oh, he is. I've never made an important decision without my dad.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he is.
Just wise.
Oh, he is. If you ask him a question, he has this meaningful pause where he is processing all of his life experiences, and then he's processing who you are and what you may need. And then when he gives you the answer, it's like he knew you were going to ask him the question weeks ago and he's been preparing. He's the most, I watch him with my kids. I watch him give my kids advice or a thought that he may have. And, junior high and high school kids, they take it or leave it. But I'm watching the interaction and thinking, son or daughter, you actually have no idea how fortunate you are to have him in your corner. It's going to be really tough to fail in life when he's in your corner. You brought up, full circle, my interest in helping single parents. I've gotten to this place in life where I'm self-aware enough to know that I care what people think of me. I think everybody does. But I don't care what people think of me when it comes to speaking up for single parents. And what I mean by that is I'm willing to use whatever platform I have or whatever extra time I may have to do whatever I can, because I know what my mom went through. I remember watching her being so sad and having conversations with my grandparents of how am I going to pay for this or how am I going to cover that? And having 2 jobs at times and just all the struggles she went through. And when I see a single mom out of work or a single dad out of work, it's not just a story I'm reading. I was that kid. I was that kid. And if I'm in a place now in life where I can do anything about it for just even one person, why wouldn't I want to? So it's interesting when you share things publicly, you get all different types of perspective. I have some people who say, thank you so much for sharing. I'm a single mom or dad, and I needed to see another voice support me. And then I'll have business leaders pull me aside and say, hey, maybe sharing some of that stuff about your mom or single parents, it could be hurting your career a little bit. It might not be the best. Seems like your personal is getting ahead of this or that. I'm like, I guess I just don't care. Because the single moms and dads we've been able to help find a job or get a scholarship or go to trade school to be able to put their family in a better financial position. And the private texts I get, not the public whatever, that say, the scholarship in your mom's name helped me go do this, and now my family's in a better place. It's so motivating and so important to me that I'm just going to keep doing it.
I'd be so interested, like, who those business leaders actually are that are like reaching out concern for you.
I'm telling you, man, there's a couple of know-it-alls.
It's a fascinating way to see the world, because it's the exact opposite of who I'm drawn to in life. Like, I'm drawn to authenticity. I'm drawn to real people that you can't separate my business life from my personal life, from my spiritual life. That, like, when I did one of these with Jeremy Andrus a couple weeks ago, or a Todd Peterson that I'd put in that same bucket, where it's like, when you meet Todd, you're getting all of Todd. You're going to get Andy. You're going to get his kids. You're going to get the hardships that he's dealing with work. You're going to get the highlights of investing. You're going to get literally that. You're going to get him getting pulled over and being really proud that he was going fast, and the policeman didn't give him a ticket, and that always happens to him because he's so lucky. And,
it's unfiltered.
You know what I mean? And that's why you're drawn to him, is because you're like, that guy is authentic. Like he's telling the truth right now. And anytime that you have somebody kind of coaching you on like, hey, be less authentic and be more structured, I'm like, I just think that's bad advice. It's the opposite advice that I would give to somebody.
The statements have been, and they approach it like, hey, for what it's worth, what I see you doing here, what I see you saying here, it's really hard to be hard driving in your business and really drive for results if you're too soft, or if you're too this, or if you're too that. I'm like, I have no problem getting in a conference room and with a senior leadership team saying we're going the wrong direction, or we need to let somebody go that's not performing. I just don't relate those things to helping people.
I agree.
I should be able to help a single mom or a single dad find a job or get a scholarship and still make a difficult decision in a conference room that may not even be the most popular decision, but it's a decision that should be helping the business to move forward. And those don't have to be mutually connected.
It's weird feedback that I could disagree with more.
Like if you got to be hard in the boardroom, you got to be hard in the conference room, then you got to be hard in.
It's just not like, and there's a difference. Like there's a difference. Like you can be hard in the conference room and still love people.
Yeah.
Don't need to hate people or be mean to people.
Yeah.
And be hard in the conference room. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's authentic either. You know what I mean? Like you can absolutely lay down the hammer and everybody knows that you love them.
Yep.
And it's coming from a good place. And those are the leaders that I'm drawn to, are the ones that Alex Dunn was one of those leaders to me.
He was to me.
Like a few people have made me cry more than Alex Dunn. I think like it's out of hard meetings that I've had that I've just broken down. They've been with Alex Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
But I always knew that he loved me.
Yeah.
So I could take very direct, very hard feedback from him because I knew it was coming from a place of love.
And he knew he wanted you to win.
And I knew he wanted the best for me.
Yeah.
And so like the hard wasn't hard for me. It was just he was telling me the truth. And sometimes he was telling me something that other people wouldn't tell me because they didn't want to hurt my feelings. He cared about me more so he could be harder because he cared about me that much. And you think about a great coach.
Yeah.
You think about, the mentors that I've had in my life. And even when I try to mentor, you're not doing anybody favors, like not telling them the truth.
Yeah.
And so like you can tell them the truth in a way that's very blunt. But if they know that you love them, they'll take it with love. Like I think about this Jim Rohn quote. And he's talking
Jimmy
about
Rohn.
He's talking about a preacher. And he's like, when you teach hellfire and damnation, you need to cry when you teach hellfire. You can't smile. Like,
true.
When you're teaching the hard stuff, it needs to come from the heart. And it can't come from a place of sinister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a difference. It could be the exact same message. But one of them, you're like, this person cares about my soul.
Yeah.
And the other person doesn't. This person, you know what I mean, would actually like it. And all of us have seen those leaders.
Yeah.
All of us have those contrasts in our life of like, this is who I want to be. This is who I don't want to be. And so, the feedback that I have from you from a third party, we've always been friends. We've never been close friends. Our families don't hang out. You know what I mean? We've always been friends, but I've always been a Nate Randle fan. I've always been cheering for you.
I appreciate that.
And when I see that stuff, it doesn't make me like you less. It makes me like you more. And it doesn't make me think that you're less strong. It makes me think that you're more strong.
Yeah.
You're, like willing to go put yourself out there and be bold and take time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think some people view it as, and with what you share as well, we may just be doing it to get the attention or get the kudos. I'm like, man, there's other ways to go get kudos than trying to help people find scholarships and get jobs. There just is.
This is the other thing I've learned. I saw this, a couple of things. Like 50% of the world is not going to like you.
Yeah.
And I think if you go through life wanting everybody to like you, you're going to be really sad. And like, when I think about like Jesus getting killed, I'm like, how do they kill Jesus? He got like the greatest person that's ever walked the earth and they kill him.
Yeah.
I'm like, if Jesus can't get a pass, any of us thinking that we're just going to skirt through life without haters.
And he had quote unquote friends involved in it.
Without haters or without taking some bullets, like you're naive, and I don't care like what part of the political spectrum you're on. 50% of the country is going to hate you.
Yeah.
Regardless of what stand you take. And so it comes a point in life where it's like, if you try to please everybody, you're really not going to please anybody. And you kind of have to decide, this is the life I'm going to go live, and I'm going to live it authentically. And I'm not going to get my self-worth based off of people liking me.
Yeah, completely.
Like that's their issue. That's not my issue. Like,
it took me a while to figure that out and get there, but I'm in a place where I know what the outcome is if I put in the time to help people.
You're how old now?
49.
So I was listening to this Tony Robbins YouTube kind of 2025 kickoff. It's him and his wife the other day.
Yeah.
And that guy for me just fires me up. I love everything about him. Big heart, always fires me up. Anytime I listen to Tony Robbins stuff, I leave uplifted and kind of with my sights set higher. But he talks about these seasons of life. And he talks about, your spring and fall and summer and winter. And the way he describes it is, 0 to 22 is spring. And he just said in the springtime, there's tremendous growth. Everything grows.
Mm-hmm.
There's water, there's sunlight, there's support. You've got parents, you've got teachers, you've got coaches. Everything's new. Everything's stretching you. Tremendous growth. And like what you're describing in your springtime, there were some really hard things.
Yeah.
There's also some really great things. You had grandparents and, new dad and, a lot of beauty comes from that, a lot of growth. And then you go into summer, and summer gets hot and it's a lot of work, and a lot of that same support kind of falls off. And for a lot of people, their most unhappy times in life are kind of 22 to 42.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of trying to find yourself. There's a lot of lack of authenticity. That's where a midlife crisis, a lot of this stuff would happen, where most of it just comes down to you're just trying to like figure out what you're about and what contribution you're going to make for the world. But then he describes kind of 42 to 62, and he says, if you've done the work in the spring and the work in the summer, the fall is the harvest. And he's like, that's where you care less about what other people think. And you can do more in 5 minutes with 3 phone calls than you could have when you were 22 working a full year.
Absolutely.
And you start seeing your influence grow and your networks grow, and this compounding benefit of your finances, of your investments in your family, and you get the compounding benefits in your community, in your career, in your skill set, in your network. And then he talks about kind of this, winter season, 62 to 92 or 102 or whatever it is. And he's like, if you've done the proper work in spring and fall and summer, that winter season can be really beautiful. That's a time when you can mentor and when you can teach and when you can leave a legacy and when you can have an Indian summer, that extends a little bit longer and you get to continue. But if you've skipped some of those steps in the spring and in the summer and in the fall, winter can be really tough. And I think there's a lot of fear in winter. There's a lot of, anxiety with winter. If you didn't take care of your health for those first 3 seasons, winter's really tough. If you didn't take care of your finances, winter's really tough. If you didn't pay the price with education or with your marriage or with your family, like those are
it catches up.
All the cautionary tales. But I think about what you describing, and I think about, that framework, and you're kind of in that harvest season. You're in the fall where you've had a tremendous amount of experience from Callaway to, we haven't even got into Qualtrics or the Jazz or Vivint, but you've just had life experiences.
Yeah.
And even Gabb, like Gabb has been a absolute rocket ship, but it's also been really hard, and you go through kind of all of that, and all the culmination of all that is just Nate Randle in 2025. And for me, it pumps me up because I'm like, I think that your best years are coming. Like, I think that the harvest of all the work that you've done up until this point is coming. And it gets me excited to see kind of what type of dent you go make on the world, both from a corporate and business standpoint, and also from a just society standpoint. I just think, those are the things that fire me up. And a lot of that's why I wanted to come talk to you, is just to, it fascinates me what makes people tick. What drives people, what, gets them out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, there was a stretch, and as you talk about spring, summer, fall, and winter, there was a stretch where, and not that it was even wrong, my career and where I was going to work and everything that was happening with that was so important to me. And I think part of it was trying to define who I was professionally. And then I wanted to make sure I was providing for my family. And that all still matters. Of course it does. But I spend as much time or more time now thinking about, my oldest gets married in like 45 days to a kid that I absolutely love. He's so strong. He's so put together. He's so respectful. He's who you'd want your daughter to marry. My oldest is getting married in 45 days, end of April. It's so cool.
It's so cool.
I also have sad dad periods where I'm like, man, I can't believe she's this old and I can't believe she's getting married. But I'm trying to create professional moments or experiences in my career that allow me to be able to really enjoy those moments.
Yeah.
So I don't just blow through them and say, oh, my daughter got married 2 weeks ago. I want to build to that moment. And when I'm there, be so in it that down the road, I can look back and have very specific memories of watching my daughter on that day and welcoming my new son-in-law to our family. And there's so many other things in life now beyond what's my job today and how much am I going to make that matters to me. That as it all blends together, it's no longer just about the 9 to 5. It's about life and like the full experience that you get from it. That's what I'm so interested in right now is, what's my 17-year-old going to do? He's a junior. And he just took the ACT the other day. I remember walking into the ACT with 2 number 2 pencils, an eraser, and a calculator. My 17-year-old just went and took it for the first time a couple days ago. And my 13-year-old is this incredible dancer, and she's at these competitions, and I go and watch her, and I see her on stage, and I'm like, that's my kid. Being a dad right now is...
You're loving it.
I love it.
You're fully like appreciating it.
Yeah, I just... And maybe it's because, I'm in these moments now, and I think, how did my biological dad decide to give that up? How? I had a really rewarding moment that I wasn't planning on bringing up, but because I just brought him back up, I hated him for a long time, to the point where if somebody in my, an uncle or an aunt or somebody would bring up that period of my life, the overwhelming charge of hatred was so strong, it would change my countenance. Like, I could just feel the weight of it.
Trigger.
Like, if I could punch a wall, I'd punch it. Or if he was there, so strong. I got so sick of carrying it that when I was working for the Jazz, I was sitting in the parking lot of the Jazz headquarters. And I had this overwhelming thought of it's time to let it go. Just time to let it go. I was like, what does that mean? Let what go? Just let it go. Let hating your dad go. Why are you carrying that? Like, just let it go. And so I started processing, well, what is that? How do I do that? Like, if I'm going to get on the other side of not hating him anymore, what do I got to do? So I went to work. That night I go home. I start to Google trying to find him. I found him. And I'll speed up the story so it doesn't take too long. I find his number. And I told myself, I'm going to call him one time. If he answers, it was meant to be. And I'm going to keep the call very simple. I'm going to tell him that I forgive him. I'm going to say it out loud. If he doesn't answer, it wasn't meant to be. And I'm never calling him again.
I'm never going to forgive him.
Yeah. And I'm not supposed to forgive him. That'll be easy.
That's wild.
I know what that is. Yeah, I'm already there.
I've already lived that.
I'm already in it. So I know exactly what that is. I picked the day I'm going to do it. I'm back sitting in the Jazz HQ parking lot. It's like 9:30 in the morning. I sit there with my phone and I dial all the digits except the last one. And my finger is fighting to push that number. I don't want to push it because I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. I push it. It rings and it goes to his voicemail. And my whole body relaxed. And I was like, that's it. I did it. That's got to count somewhere. I'm out. I did it. I got out of my car, started walking into the building, and my feet felt like they were in cement. It was like I was almost frozen in the parking lot. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go back to my car. I walk back to my car. I get in, I shut the door. I sit there for probably 2 minutes, but it felt like 20. I dial again. He answers. I said, is this so-and-so? He said, it is. I said, does the name Nate Randle ring a bell? Long pause. Son, is that you? Yeah, it is. I forgive you. I don't know why I'm telling you this right now, but he cried. And he told me how sorry he was for everything. And he told me that he had waited his entire life for that call. And then I told him, I have a dad. I have a dad that showed up for me every day you didn't. He's my dad. And he'll keep being my dad for the rest of my life. And I don't know what happens after this call. But if this call is just for you to hear me tell you that I forgive you, I forgive you. And then we talked for almost 90 minutes.
What?
I told him everything about my kids and what he'd missed out on. And he told me about his career and where he worked and what he did and how many kids he had and what he did after. And then I told him at the end of the call, I may call you in a month. I may call you in 5 years. I may never call you again. I don't know. I don't need a relationship with you. I have a dad that showed up for me. And I'm trying to simplify my life, not complicate my life. So I can't have the pressure of you feeling like this has to be anything more than just this call. But when we hang up, you got to know that I've completely let everything go and I forgive you. And I don't think I need to tell more about where it is now, but
Where is it?
I hung up, and the release of 40 something years of hating him literally just flooded out of me. And I've never felt hate for him again. It's been the most relieving feeling I've ever had. Somebody mentions that I had a dad or something about him. Just like, yeah, I did. It's part of my life. I think I'll keep the rest of it private because I have family members that are involved at different levels. But the chance to be able to forgive him and know that if I took the step that...
Was that the last time you talked to him?
Yeah. And I didn't know then that it would be, and it may not be the last time. I don't know. But making sure my real dad...
But you felt guided.
Like yeah, I had to do
You felt
it.
like this is something I need to do.
I had to do it because I was at a place in life where I felt like, how can I ask to be forgiven of this or that? Or when I make a mistake, how can I hope to learn from it or be better if I'm not willing to forgive something that happened 40 plus years ago?
Yeah.
And I always, whenever I made a mistake or whenever I've unintentionally or maybe even intentionally wronged somebody and then I've tried to make it right, I've wanted those people to forgive me, especially close family members.
Yeah, of course.
But when I was carrying that, I even had the thought of, well, how could I be forgiven, or how can I get to the other side of this if I don't really believe in forgiveness? If I can't forgive somebody that I've hated forever, how can I ever expect somebody else to get there with me? And as soon as I let that go, forgiveness became this real thing for me. I was like, oh, you can do it. You can do it. And then you can do it for others, and others can do it for you. And that's one of the best gifts you can give or receive, is to forgive somebody and say, I forgive you. Let's keep
done.
going. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's so special. Not the same thing, but the same for me. Like, Vivint was a wild ride. Like, it was an intense environment.
Yeah.
Like, and it was predominantly male. Cutthroats, probably the right word, like very competitive.
Yeah.
And in that environment where it's ultra competitive, you just have experiences that are tough. And it's, looking back now, it's obvious to look at it from like a business model and just say, these are so predictable, but you'd go and you'd spend time and you'd develop people, and they'd be kind of really important people for you.
Yeah.
And then they'd leave and they'd go start their own companies or go compete against you, and could actually cause you, quite a bit of damage. And that's really hard emotionally. And we just had a lot of battle scars, never anticipated I'd do Vivint for 15 years, and I did. And so when I transitioned out, like, there was just a list of people that I just had hard feelings towards. You know what I mean? That, like,
yeah, I'm sure.
That I can legitimately say, like, wrong me deliberately.
Yeah.
Like, they would say, like, they have said, I'm really sorry I wronged you deliberately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize, like, in that moment, it took me 3 to 5 years, and it's kind of like peeling back an onion. It was just kind of person by person that I just would kind of identify and just say, there's still something there, and I'm going to lead out on this. And making the phone calls and just telling people, like, hey, like, it was hard sometimes. And, this one particular thing was kind of messed up.
Yeah.
But I want you to know that I forgive you, and I'm cheering for you and want the best for you in your career. And that's just it. And it's amazing how therapeutic it is for both parties. Because I think for them, and I've done stuff that I'm not proud of. And so it's like, all of us make mistakes. And when I'm forgiven, it's, kind of grace from people, and it feels really good, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I don't realize what I'm carrying until I'm not carrying it. And I just walk around lighter today than I ever have in any time in my life. Like, I'm just not carrying hate.
Yeah. Think how many of those people you were trying to avoid or hoping you actually crossed paths with them so you could give them a piece of your mind.
100%, and it's not productive. It's kind of the opposite of, like, my philosophy on life and what I'm about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm about good vibes and building people and synergy and making deposits in the emotional bank accounts of everybody. Like, I want every relationship that I ever have in life to be that I put $2 into the pot for every dollar that I take out. I never want to be that person that's taking more than I'm giving.
Yeah.
And try to live that way. And some of those, they put you in an emotional state that's not aligned with my values and kind of who I am. And I think by fixing it, you get back aligned, where you can actually be really authentic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, thanks for sharing that story. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, it's beautiful. It's the good stuff in life because it allows you, I don't think it just allows you to like move on from that. I think it allows you to be a better dad. I think it allows you to be a better executive. I think like you just don't realize what type of headspace that's taken and like what type of energy that you're giving it, even on a subconscious level.
Yeah, I operated from a place of he deserves to be hated.
Yeah.
I have every right to hate him. And
but so the problem is you're carrying that.
Yeah, you are. He's feeling his own emotions, but he's not feeling that from me because he's not around me.
Thinking about him all day, every day.
Yeah. And when you're building this story in your head or have this narrative of every time I think of him, it's okay for me to despise him because he deserves to be despised. Whatever's happening inside of you and all those negative feelings are getting stacked, the body keeps track.
Yeah.
I truly believe the body knows. And
how true is that?
Oh, it is for me.
I've had such visceral, hard feelings at times. It makes me sick.
Yeah.
Like I literally make myself sick.
Yep.
Because of anger or hate.
Yeah.
You know, for a situation or an individual or whatever. And the same thing with intense fear, intense anxiety, like paralyzing emotions, you know. Fascinating, like how your body wears it, you know.
Yeah. And then when you let it go, it's like all the supplements and all the time at the gym and staying hydrated, all those things are important.
You can feel it.
But you let it go and your body's immediately like, I feel so much better. I feel like myself
100%.
Again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So we bounced around quite a bit. Talk to me about that Vivint transition.
Yeah.
Like what was it that said, because you're at Nike. I think anybody that like, you say that out loud. I'm working on the Tiger Woods golf, Rory McIlroy, probably get on to almost any course you want to get on to, get in front of about anybody you want. Just with that card of I'm with Nike Golf, you probably get into most rooms that you want to get onto in the golf world. I'm going to go take another chapter in my career and go work at Vivint. Like what? Was it just time? Like, did you just
time and family?
Yeah.
So as I think every job can be spun as some amazing thing. And sure, you can tell people you work at Nike and they immediately, oh, I'd love to work at Nike. And how was it? And you have all the stories and you met a lot of incredible people and you probably met the majority of your heroes from your childhood. And all those things happen for me. But the flip side is sports does not happen on Wednesdays. Every major sporting event in the world happens when? On the weekends. So whatever job you're in, you work Monday through Friday and it's a grind. And then you get on a plane and you fly to wherever and you're there for the weekend and you get home late Sunday night. And you don't not go into the office on Monday because it's Nike and everyone's a starting quarterback. So you trip into the office on Monday and you do that week after week, month after month, quarter after quarter. And you're missing ballet recitals and first T-ball games and a birthday.
The cost was just too expensive.
And you start justifying all of it. You can tell yourself, well, I'm working at Nike. This is for my family. And when I was a FaceTime dad, saying, oh, good luck at your dance recital today. Sorry I can't be there, but I love you. Did mom give you the flowers I got? You can justify it every which way. And I certainly, providing for a family is important, but at what cost?
Yep.
And I had gotten to a place where Nike was more important than anything else. It just was. I didn't set out for it to be that. But when I wanted to work there and then got there, it got so amplified in my mind and I wanted to move up so quickly to have all these other experiences. And then you start making connections in the company. And if you're on golf, what does everyone want to do? They want to go golf. So now you're golfing and taking to tournaments, the Jordan brand director and the basketball director. And then they reciprocate. They're like, well, come to the Final Four or come to the Super Bowl or come to, and then I go home and say, hey, I got to travel again. You just traveled. I know, but it's a Super Bowl or it's the Final Four. And you don't even really have to be at that event, but you can make it a work event.
Because everything's a work
event, but everything happens on the weekend.
Yeah.
So I couldn't carry church calling during certain periods. I was never around. I was missing weekend activities and I just got to the point 5 years in where I was like,
not doing this.
I either have to change it now or I'm going to go another 5. And then what is it? And our oldest was getting ready to head into like middle part of junior high. And my wife just said, if we're ever going to do it, we better do it now. Because if we don't want to move
during high school,
start moving kids in junior high and high school. And so I had the thought of, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, I better start making connections. I don't remember how Lyman and I got connected specifically to Vivint, but I really appreciated him. And then I came and met other people. And to me, it was just the right transition home. It was a growing company with a lot of people that I respected, and it just worked.
So you worked at Vivint, you worked for the Jazz.
Yeah.
And then you worked at Qualtrics.
Yeah.
Which those 3 companies today are still some of the most significant companies, brands in Utah. But when you worked there, they were it.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. What did you learn at Vivint? If you were to sum up, 2 to 3 points, what was like the gold that you took from that experience?
I think my biggest learning at Vivint, my first 6 months there, I was arrogant. I was a Nike guy that was at Vivint, and I thought the Vivint way should cater to me. I had a Nike playbook that I knew how to run. And why couldn't Vivint just adjust to that playbook? It worked for Nike. Why couldn't it work for Vivint? And then I had this aha moment of, I really don't even know how this place is run. And I don't know how the customers won. So I better go out with the customer and experience it. So I had a stretch of 6 weeks where almost every week I was out in Fresno with Puck, or I was I just start going through I traveled with reps. I went to the correlation meetings, did the rally, got in a car, drove out to a neighborhood and knocked doors. And I experienced it firsthand. I saw the dog come to the fence.
From the ground level.
I saw the rejection at the doors. I saw the celebration of closing the first deal at 1:00 in the afternoon after knocking for 4 hours. I didn't like it. I mean, I only did it, 6 or 7 times for a couple days at a time, but I didn't love it. I liked being with the rep. I liked being with the team. I liked experiencing the customers, but the grind of the day,
it's hard.
I mean, but I learned what it took to win the customer, and I saw how hard the job was, and it totally changed my perspective. And then my approach wasn't, well, why don't all you sales guys just come follow the Nike playbook? It was, this is a totally different playbook. And then I started putting together marketing and branding experiences and messaging that worked for that, not worked for my past. So if I summarize Vivint, instead of thinking I knew everything, which I hardly knew anything when I got there, the only way to learn was just to go throw myself into it. And I did it, and it sped up my learning significantly. At the Jazz weren't winning. We hadn't made the playoffs in 3 or 4 years. This is when we had Hayward and a few others, but we didn't have Donovan and
Rudy.
And then Rudy came, but we still weren't winning. And I learned how to run a business and connect with ticket buyers even when the team was losing. I mean, when you're 20 games below 500, you can't sell winning. You're not winning.
Yeah.
So what we sold was the experience of going to a game. And we made TV commercials about, it's not about winning. It's about a grandpa taking his grandson to the game for the first time. And before you ever sit down in your seats in the arena, you've already had the experience that made going to the game worth it. You picked up your grandson, you drove downtown, he's in his junior Jazz jersey, you parked in the parking lot, you walk in, you saw the street performers, you stopped in the shop and got him his Jazz hat, or before you ever get to the seat,
you've already won.
Yeah. If the team wins or loses, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's about creating your own moment. And so we did a bunch of campaigns like that. And I learned really fast that when the product you have isn't necessarily winning, you still have to create winning moments. You can't just say, well, we're not winning, so it is what it is. Yeah. I mean, you can't do that. can't say we're 20 games below 500 or 15 games below 500. Don't come. We'll be out of a job fast. So that's when we came up with Take Note, which is still used by the team roughly 10 years later. And that is take note of the moments in the moment.
Yeah.
There can be a moment in the third quarter with your daughter or your son that took to the game that isn't about winning, but it's the moment you'll remember about the game. Take note of that. Remember that. And don't make your entire experience hang on winning or losing.
Talk to me about what you learned at Qualtrics.
Qualtrics was insane. Mr. Smith was on fire. The executive team was preparing to go public. So they'd been acquired by SAP a few years earlier for $8 billion,
yep.
$8 billion plus. And then SAP wanted to spin them off and take them public. And when I got there with Ryan and others, it was, we got to go public and we got to go fast. We got to pull this together. And then COVID hit. So the NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange were like, no one's coming to New York. If you're going to go public, you got to do it remote.
Which is insane.
It was crazy. So we pulled together a small team and figured out how to do an IPO remote. And we had the NASDAQ desk come to the Qualtrics office. We set the theater at Qualtrics up at HQ just down the road here, like it was in New York. Had all this satellite stuff set up to be able to do it. Pulled it off, went public. Stock came out at 17 or 18 and jumped to 33 or 34. And then it had its ups and downs after that. But I learned how to go public at Qualtrics. I was in the thick of it. We were on calls every day with New York. It was all remote over Zoom. It was intense, but it was really cool.
What have you learned being the CEO of Gabb?
Most companies are trying to add more. And Gabb's winning sauce is less screen time, less social media, less. And when you're building something that is trying to create a less than environment for your kids, while everyone else is trying to add more, the gap you're creating between what's happening in the world and what's happening with what you're offering keeps getting wider. Because more social media platforms come out and more grooming happens and more bullying and suicide and sexting and all the craziness that happens on these smartphones. And you're trying to put kids in a place where they can have a healthy tech experience. I've watched year after year, the gap between what's happening in tech and what we're offering in tech is a massive divide.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to manage a business and help parents understand that it's safe tech in steps is the way, not just giving it to your kid and hoping that nothing happens, because it's not if, it's when.
I mean, we've screwed all that stuff up.
Yeah.
Like our first two kids.
So do we.
iPhones early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I think the iPhone is one of the greatest creations that's ever existed in the history of the world.
Yeah.
I think about how much value that thing has created for me in my life. It's insane.
Yeah.
From pictures to audiobooks to amazing experiences with dad or mom or somebody that doesn't live remote, to FaceTime, to managing my finances. I mean, it literally has every application. But like anything, you take the good and you take the bad, and they're just tools. They're not good or bad, but they're, they magnify like what somebody can experience. And those tools, for young kids are really dangerous. And I think we don't fully understand the consequences of social media and of, a lot of these things that our young kids are exposed to. Like I think about like the 1950s and them showing commercials of smoking, how it makes you healthier, and like literally just this like propaganda campaign that ultimately ended up causing cancer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I do think we're going to go fast forward, 5, 10, 15 years and look back at the generation that had no filter on kids having access to unlimited phones. And we're going to say, man, that was obviously a bad idea. And it's going there now. Like, you know what I mean? Tremendous amount of research, tremendous amount of data on the negative consequences of those things for youth.
Yep.
And I think that's why Gabb is done. I mean, when we invested, I think they had 10 million of subscription revenue.
Yeah.
Today they're, 100 plus, 10 times as big. And it's because of that. It's that need isn't disappearing. It's only exaggerating.
Yeah.
And you guys have innovated. You guys have built better products. You guys have built better solutions. You've found a way to do it in a way that's more, you take the good from the phone.
Yep.
And leave the bad. You know what I mean? And anyway, so that's fascinating. Before let's finish up. Talk to me about faith. Talk to me about how faith is factored in the journey from being a 5-year-old to a 9-year-old to a teenager to a young professional to getting married. All these things, like how is faith factored?
Faith is everything to me because it's the only way that I've been able to hold on. So I lost my dad to his choices. I lost my mom to a car accident. And then my wife and I lost our second child at full-term birth. Went in to deliver on delivery day and lost her to delivery complications. And so I had to bury my second kid next to my mom. And after that happened, I had this pivotal moment in my life where I either had to decide I was all in and I was going to hold on and believe that there was something more, or I was just going to quit and say enough's enough. I'm tired of the trials. I'm tired of dealing with heartache and all these crazy moments in my life. I just want to feel normal. I don't want to feel sad or depressed or broken. And what I decided was, and this is where faith comes in, and then I'll wrap. I believe there's a higher power. I believe there's a heavenly Father. I believe there is a life after this. And if I want to see those that I have so longed to see again, then I have to believe that's real. Because if I don't, then what's the point? What's the point of holding on? So I'm driven every day. It passes my mind at least once a day. What am I doing today to make myself better, to put myself in a place where I can see my mom and my daughter again? That simple thought alone has helped me make decisions or avoid things that keeps me moving in a way where I can believe that I'll see him again. So faith to me, especially at this point in my life, it's a guiding principle for me because I have to believe that I'll see him again.
Yeah. You have a beautiful soul. Like anybody who comes in contact with you can feel it. You got a big heart, and so much of what we communicate as people is nonverbal. It's just how we show up, and the way you show up, and people can just feel that you got a big heart and you care about them and you want them to succeed. And I've always felt that, from the day that I met you, and such a big fan of you and what you're about, and also feel really fortunate to be an investor in a company that you're running. When people ask me about Gabb, it's very easy for me to say, yeah, Nate runs the company and Nate's a rock star. Like, I've worked with Nate for a long time and Nate's a rock star. And so anyway, love you, brother. Thanks for sharing the stories. I hadn't heard a lot of those and they fire me up. And I'm excited to do this again 3 to 5 years from now, and kind of what you learn from Gabb 2.0. It's fun to see you've gone from a junior guy to a mid-level guy to a more senior guy to a senior guy to the guy in your career. It's a really fun journey. I think when you look back, it's that Steve Jobs. You can't connect the dots going forward, but you can look back and say, man, I never could have done this if I wouldn't have done that. If I wouldn't have done that. And I just think you're going to go harvest the work that you've done for a long time. And I'm, happy to be a part of it and cheering for you. So love you, brother.
Thanks, Case. You too. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
This podcast is brought to you by Sandlot Partners.